Okay, so welcome again. This is much anticipated Prop Gamer 2.0. All right, so for those who already knew about Prop Gamer 1, basically what the Prop Gamer does is that it allows you to make money whether you pass or fail your challenge, right? So regardless of whether you're passing the evaluation or whether you are failing the prop evaluation, you're going to make money either way. So version 1 down to 1.2, 1.3, all were hits. People have been using this to make so much money in cycles, both when they failed challenge and when they pass. So, but I decided that one thing that's hindered me in really pushing the system was I don't want a station where so many people are using it and then maybe Prop-M starts flagging it and stuff, when they see coordinated trading when people are using the same stuff. So I've been looking for how I can actually expand that. That's what 2.0 actually does. So 2.0 introduces so many things. I'm just going to run a couple of backtests first to show you the potential of this, and then I will then go into the settings to basically look at all these inputs and what it does. So we're just going to come to this strategy settings. Let's choose something basic like the moving average. So you can choose so many strategies, but let's just go with moving average for now. So moving average, we're going to choose the MA exponential, moving average period 20. So the 20 period moving average exponential 20 EMA. So basically what it does is when it comes to the time that the E is supposed to run, it's basically going to determine are we above the EMA or below the EMA, and then basically take a trade based on that. So let's just run it. So we are using the 4 hours. So we are going to be running this on the 4 hour as our reference time frame, right? It's going to be running on the 1 hour, but the reference time frame that we'll be using is 4 hours. So if the 4 hour candle is above the EMA, then the bias should be a buy. If it is below the EMA, the bias should be a sell, even though there's a condition to that, but let's just leave it at that for now. So let's run that. All right, so it's running. You can actually come in here and then see all the trades. So every trade has an SL, a TP. The lot size is calculated from the percentage that you set. So you can actually limit the percentage loss that you have at any given time. And it only takes one trade per day. So for those of you who are already using it, you already know all this. All right. So at the end of the period, this is basically, we run this from the beginning of 2024 to present time, right? So present day, that's basically going to be the 28th of September, 28th of July, 2026. So from 2024 to 26th, right? Even though this is 30th, but you can see we're on the 29th. So this is basically 28th of July that's going to stop. So if we had run this normally, like normal we would normally trade, this would be our balance. So that means we'd have racked up a loss of minus 3,707. However, using the prop gamer system, basically what would have happened is you would have gotten 1,200 accounts, received 39 payouts, which would have amounted to 7,303, right? But your actual earnings will be 4,539 because out of these earnings, remember, all we're basically doing is that we are hedging, right? So we are hedging our prop account, or rather, I used to say we are actually hedging the brokerage account most of the time, but either way you want to look at it, either hedging the prop account or you're hedging your brokerage account using the prop account. So you would have made 3,093 from losing, right? Each time that you fail, all the amounts that you made from every single time you fail would have amounted to this. The prop earnings when you subtract the amount that is used to hedge from phase 1 to phase 2 down to funded stage, then you are left with this. So altogether, about this, you would have taken 40 evaluations in total. So that's basically how it looks like. This is only 10K accounts, right? We are using a 10K prop account. So let's do something real quick. Let's change this to even random. We don't have a strategy, just randomly choose. So here we have the opportunity to choose our bias. So if we leave it at 50, that means 50-50. You can decide to buy or you can decide to sell. Ideally, when you're using this, because what we want to do with the um, what's it called? With the prop gamer is that we want to have streaks. So want to have winning streaks, losing streaks. That is what we want. We don't want to just be win, lose, win, lose, win, lose. That's really what we don't want. That's the only time when um we don't really like it to either way, whether it's winning or losing, we don't mind. We just don't want it to be doing nothing. Right. So let's just increase this to 60. Later, we'll change it to 40 and then we'll see what it does. So what that means is it being at 60 like this means that 60% of the time it's going to be taking a buy trade, right? That's basically what it means. The trades are random. So it's going to decide by itself whether it's just going to buy or sell. And this is tied, the way that number is generated is tied to the account number, right? I'll just explain some of these things later when we actually begin to look at those settings. So 60% of the time is going to buy. We're going to see that in the tester or in our back test results when we are done. All right, sync basically we are done. So again, we would have lost about 3,000 something if we traded it normally, but using the programmer system, we're actually making money. So before I was thinking that the random was actually making more money, but by the time I extended from 2025 down to 2024, I discovered that the strategies themselves, using structure, using the moving average and all that, tended to actually make more money than just the random, but it's not so much, right? So difference of 4.5 to 39. All right, so that's basically that. So let's look at the inputs. What is new, what is different, and then I will take time to explain all that. So targets are basically you're going to set at what time do you want the EA to place a trade. So the maintenance, the reason why I usually say it should be 1 or 2, right? So usually that's dependent if you're using the normal broker. So there are certain brokers that open at abnormal times, but if you're using most brokers that like IC markets, most of the prop firms, in fact, almost all the prop firms I know and all that, usually you want when the futures market is open, right? So the futures market on this broker opens by 1 a.m., right? So that's what we're going to be using. The target minutes, you can set the target minute you want, or this is one of the new features. You can now use a target randomizer. So what this is going to do is that you're going to set the lower boundary and the upper boundary, right? This is for the minutes. So the hour stays the same, but the minutes when it's going to open the trade will not be random, right? So it's going to choose, here is going to randomly select a time between 1:15 and 1:59 and place a trade. And it's going to be different every single day, right? So it's not going to be at the same time every single day. All right, so the next thing that you have is the order deletes are 23. So at this time, we don't carry trades over. So every trade is closed within the day. So you need to know when you want to close the trade. If it hasn't hit SL or TP, or if an order hasn't been picked, because we sometimes use limit orders. So if the order hasn't been picked, you also want it to be deleted at this time. Just like we did with target hour, we can also randomize the end minutes. So we can choose the hour and then we can choose to randomize the minutes, which is basically how I use it. So again, you have the lower boundary and the upper boundary. So in this case, you are basically saying this EA should close at 23 and pick a minute between 30 and 50. So it can be 23:30, it can be 23:50, right? So it's basically going to choosing, or it's between 3:45, 23:31, 23:37, whatever it wants. Now the seek frequency is 1 minute. Just leave that as that. Reference time frame is 1 minute. So this is going to determine how frequently should they check to see whether I should place trades. Ideally, you should just leave that 1 minute, except you really have a good reason to change that. reference time frame, leave it at 1 minute. So you have the bias symbol. So if you are going to be using any of the strategies we are going to describe here, um, you basically want to indicate which symbol it should be on, which symbol it should be operating on. So the symbol you select here is not the symbol it's using, right? This doesn't really have much of a bearing on what it runs on. So even if I put this on Euro USD, select Euro USD here, but I come here and change my traded symbol to GBP USD, then this is going to be trading on GBP USD. Now, if my bias symbol is Euro USD and my traded symbol is GBP USD, then basically what's going to happen is that it's going to use the bias, it's going to obtain the bias from EU, right, from Euro USD, and then place the trade on GBP USD, right? So that's something that can be done. You can use GBP USD to get your bias and trade on Euro USD. Usually, because of the issue around spread, um, I think Euro USD, AUD USD are about the best symbols to use, but Euro USD really is the best because the spreads are really low and all that. So I just like to leave it at Euro USD. All right, so choose the strategy to use. This is where a lot of work really went in, because it took a lot of work to actually come up with this. So unlike most other EAs that just have one strategy, right? Using this EA, you can actually select a couple of strategies. So you have 4 strategies you can select from. So structure, you're basically looking at the close. All right, the previous day or previous period close below the period before it, right? Or things like that. So you're looking at structure, that kind of a thing, high highs, high lows, high closes, and stuff. So that's how it's going to derive the bar. So if you choose structure, then you must specify the reference time frame for the structure strategy. All right, so what time frame should you be looking at? Should you be looking at the weekly? Should you be looking at the daily? Should you be looking at the 4 hours and on like that? All right. Then you could also choose moving average. Now, if you choose moving average, then you have to select the type of moving average you want to use. So you can choose from simple to exponential, smoothed, linear weighted, um, and on like that. All right. Then the next thing is that you have to select the moving average period. So is it 20 period EMA, a 50 period EMA, 200 period EMA, whatever. Then the moving average applied price. So this is what you usually have on your normal moving average for those of us who have ever used a moving average. So do you want to use the close price, the open price, typical price, with that price and all that? So just looking at typical price. Then you can choose the reference time frame for the MA strategy, right? So you can see that here. So you can choose 4 hours, what are daily, weekly, monthly, or what have you. So it's basically going to be looking at, are we above or below the EMA? So if we're above the EMA, buy, we are below the EMA, sell. It's as simple as that. So based on this time frame, right? So that is how that works. The other thing you can do there is that you could choose random, right? So you could choose random, and it's basically just going to randomly decide whether to buy or to sell. However, we have something called a buy bias skew for the random strategy. So you could specify what percentage should be a buy, right? That's basically what you're saying. So of course, if we choose 60% should be buys, then it means 40% will be sells, right? So it also means if we change this to 30% buys, we have invariably said 70% should be sells. Now, when you run your backtest, it doesn't mean it's going to be exactly 70-30, right? But it's going to be something close. So that's how that one works. And then, of course, you could choose manual as your strategy and then specify your bias, right? You could just decide I want to be selling. I don't want to sell on this account. I don't want to buy on this account. However, you need to be very, very careful if you want to use this. Why do I say so? Uh, if you just want to leave it and allow it to be running like that, you could run into a situation where a prop firm accuses you of one-sided bets, right? So you're just basically trading in one direction without taking into consideration any strategy and all that. So you have to really be careful when doing that. But I just put it so that if you feel that you have um, a technique of selecting your bias for each day, maybe you have a way of knowing the daily bias for each day or whatever, and you want to do it manually for whatever reason best known to you, then of course you could do that. But typically, I expect that most people are going to be choosing between structure, moving average, random. All right. So trading mode, if you are backtesting, it should be set to test. If you are using it on a funded account, you are using it in real conditions, then of course you want to set this to live. Now, the trading method, this is very, very important. The trading method can either be a line or counter. What does this mean? Now, remember, for instance, if we are using the moving average strategy, typically, if the candle closes the reference time frame, right? So the where's that? The reference time frame for the MS strategy. So if we are using 4 hours, for instance, if the 4 hours is above the 20 EMA, as we selected it here, then basically what you're saying is buy, right? And if it is below, sell. Now, if we choose align, it means yes, we want to align ourselves to that bias, but we could choose counter and want to do the opposite. So if our normal bias says buy, we want to go counter to it and sell. If it says sell, we want to go counter to it and buy, right? So all these things just give you so many options. It's going to be very difficult to see two traders who are exactly having the same trades, right? That is one of the main selling points of this EA. So you could have 1,000 people using the EAs and their trades are going to be completely different. It's good for people using the EAs, it's good for the preference because they don't usually want one-sided risks if everybody's using the same EAs and the same settings, right? Then you can choose the current phase, right? If you are trading it live, if you are in the demo, if you are just backtesting, just leave that phase one. The thing would do the calculations. It will know which phase it is in per time and move on. Then you could decide to trade a funded stage. This is mainly for um, backtesting purposes. But if you're also in the funded stage in the live account, then or in a proper account, then you also need to set this to true. And we have our risk money management. Nothing really changed here um, from version 1. For those of you who already know how this works. So you have your account capital, you need to put the account costs, right, and the account currency. You need to specify the gain on prop loss. So on average, this is how much you will make when you lose the prop accounts. Now, I included this in version 1.2, use demo copy feature. So it could actually be in case maybe you're running this on a prop account and you're running it on a demo account, you're copying to the proper account and all that, you could set the account equity, right, where you're starting from. It might be that this is not exactly 10K, right? Even if for whatever reason, you just don't want it to start at the current balance of your account, you could actually set this to true and then set the equity where you want it to act like it's starting from, right? Now, the ATR period that you want to use, but we use this in calculating our SL. This ATR is based on the daily time frame. We use it to calculate our SL. So we are going to divide the ATR by this number to give us what we should be using for our SL. Now, the TP multiple for evaluation is also something that changed in, I think, version 1.3. TP multiple for evaluation and TP multiple for funded. So you could select, so for instance, there are prop firms that have consistency rule for the funded. They don't have it in the evaluation stages and have it for the funded. So when you're using consistency rules, you are actually penalized. Consistency rules penalize you for having high RRs, right? So you might decide in that case to use something like 1, right? So for those who actually get the EA, I usually spend time with whoever has gotten the EA to actually set it up for them and provide ongoing support to every one of them. We're always talking, like every single person that has the prop gamer, to make sure that we're always getting the settings and everything right based on their peculiar situations and the prop firms that they are using. All right, so phase one settings, you need to specify the max drawdown. The risk is always high. Usually this is targeting the firms that have 5% daily drawdown. So we want to stay below that by a bit so that just in case you have slippage, you have whatever, but mainly slippage, you don't run the risk of hitting the daily drawdown. Phase one targets will always put something extra because by the time the trades are closing, they're going to be charged some commissions. You don't want that to then stop you from hitting the target, right? Phase one cost, we're assuming 1% cost for commissions and all that. Same thing for phase two, 10% max drawdown. We are risking 3.5% per trade. We want to pass or fail quickly. That's what we are doing. That's how we do 40 evaluations in 2.5 years, right? Phase two target 5.1, phase two cost allowance 1.0. If you are using this in what's it called? In live conditions and you've passed phase one, right? You would have lost some money on your brokerage. You need to come here and input how much you lost on the brokerage, right? So that whenever you do lose the account, it's going to recover everything. That's basically how it works. Whenever you lose the account, it recovers everything that's has been lost at any point in time. All right, so funded phase max risk. So usually certain firms might tell you maximum of 1.5%. Stay below it. Don't ever, if any firm ever tells you don't risk more than 1.5%, don't go and risk 1.5%. Risk like 1.3, 1.2. So just make sure you never get to those rules. So I'm assuming on this prop firm, we don't ever want to risk more than 1.5%. So let's leave it at 1.3. Funded target 2% because we want each time we pass to try to get to our first payout so we can get our refund. If you're not getting refunds, then it's now up to you to do the calculations, do the test to know whether you should go for a higher target and all that. Right. And then you need to also put in the amount that was lost in the brokerage during phase two, if you get to the funded stage. And that's basically that. And then the profit split, this is mainly for the back tests purposes. So if you use this in a live account, it's going to show you the multiplier that you're supposed to be using to copy the trades from the prop account into your personal account. So let's run a couple of tests and we'll wrap it up. I want to make sure that this would not exceed about 35 minutes because so many people switch off around that time, gets switched off for so many. So let's choose something like structure. And let's use normally all the white has been the daily. So let's choose something else. Let's choose 4 hours. Let's choose for the EMA, we're going to do 4 hours. So let's choose 1 week. Let's assume that we are doing this on 1 week and we are going counter, right? So whatever they tell us to do, we'll do the opposite, right? So let's see what that result will look like. Then I'll run a test on using the exponential, and then I think that's basically it. I've already run the test using the random, so you'll see how that looks like. Well, okay, I might also do another one random so you see what the skew looks like when we apply it. All right, so we're almost done. So when you look at this, each of these spikes up at times that you hit the phase one targets, and each of these down spikes, or rather, each of these spikes, when you see these places, so these places are when you lose the account. So you lost an account, each of those places. So let's look at it. So if we are going counter, then we would have just made 2,864, right? So I've just made 2,864, taking 31 evaluations, then 11 payouts. which is which is a bit interesting, right? Oh, okay, I see why. Let's increase this to, so usually for this account, I'd like to leave it at 3, and let's see the difference that that makes. When I don't usually have consistency issues to worry about, we can go for higher. Um, if we are usually having consistency rules, there are other ways to work around it. I can't show everything in this video, but just show as much as I can. For everyone who gets here, would look at the prop firm. Usually for now, I have like 2 or 3 prop firms that this is good for, because you must be allowed to trade through news, even though that news rule, I'm already working on an EA for firms that use Forex Factory as their news source. But for now, let's stay with that. So just changing that, just going for a 3R would have changed that from 2.8 to about 5K, right? So, and that is because we are not worried about consistency rules. If we want to be worried about consistency rules, then we need to do a couple of things. We can come here, change this to 1, come to the funded stage, target something like, our risk could be something like 1.5, and then we are targeting something like, say, a 3.96 or 3.9, right? And then that's basically that. And then we can run it and see what we get. So after this, I'll just change everything back and then quickly run. But this is already 32 minutes and counting. All right. So let's see what are there. So you would see that the different configurations, you make money, but of course the amount of money that you make. So this gives us 3178. So usually not having consistency will tend to be better. But again, I'm running this using the settings of FTMO about 110. Or most firms that have consistency rules, the profit is usually much cheaper, which allows you to make a whole lot more money. I don't have the time to be running all those battles. You can go and look at the previous one that I did, um, the webinar that I did before on this. All right, so let's do this. Let's change the strategy to EMA, and I'll call it a wrap after this. So moving average exponential, we're using the 4 hours. That's basically it. Let me align, since I've been doing counter this all this while. So we align with it. CP4 funded is 3. And let's just run it and boom. So after this, sorry about that, my mic fell. So after this, we'll just look at the results in the strategy, in the strategy tester, the back tests section of it. And then we'll just call it a wrap on this. So on average, using the, let's see, so 4141, right? So you'd have been about 4K on this 15 funded accounts and all that. So as far as this strategy is concerned, even if you are trading this without hedging, you'd have still made some money, because you'd have taken 40, what was it called? 40 evaluations, past 15, gotten this. So you'd have spent about 4,400, if I'm not mistaken, to get 7,293, which is not bad. And if you had traded this just like a normal strategy on your personal accounts, you would have been down. And that's why I tell people that prop trading, it's different from your normal trading on your live accounts. You don't trade props the same way that you treat your normal brokerage accounts. So if we look at the back tests, it doesn't have a good profit factor. It's less than 1. Sharpe ratio is negative, yet we are still able to make money on these trades. So that's basically what the prop gamer enables you to do. On average, you're going to be doing 1K plus for a 10K account. You're going to be doing 1K plus virtually every year, right, on the account. And it's usually going to cost you about 900. If you are going for FTMO, it's going to take you about, you need about $900 to be able to run this effectively, both getting the accounts and the amount you need in your brokerage. So that's basically like doubling your account in 1 year. For those who want to do like times 10 or times 100, no, this system is not for you. This system basically allows you to make money almost risk-free. There are risks. The VPS could shut down and, all those kind of things that have nothing to do with the trading. But when it comes to the trading, it's risk-free. The risk come from things that don't have to do with the trading, right? So for instance, if the prop firm collapses, right? So those things are actually written. So that's why you go only with well-established prop firms. We don't gamble in the prop firms that we use. So this basically just introducing the changes that are now on the Prop Gamer 2.0. And I believe this is going to be so changing to so many people. Each of the random features, the time randomizer, both the entry time randomizer, the exit time randomizer, and the strategy, the random strategy, are all based on or tied to the account number. So they are tied to the account number of the account where it is put on. So it's going to be virtually impossible for anyone using the randomizer to have the same trades as any other person. Why? The time the trade will be taken will be different. So if the entry time is different, the SL is going to be different, the TP is going to be different, and all that. So it's so good, right? And of course, you still get to enjoy making money regardless of whether you pass or you fail. I'm going to link the video to where I explain how the prop gamer system works, right? So for those of you who are just coming across this for the first time, you'll actually be able to find out, okay, how do I go about using the system to make money? And just like I mentioned in some posts, those of you who follow me on Telegram, I already mentioned this year will be going for a 20% discount. So usually it's $300, but it's going to be going for a 20% discount for the next 1 week. So between now and let's see, 1 week is when? Well, let's start it from tomorrow. So from tomorrow, where's my calendar not popping up? All right, just look at it. Anyway, for the next 1 week or thereabouts, they're just basically going to be having 1%, um, 20% discount. I said 1%. They're going to be having a 20% discount or that. So between now and the 6th of August, between now and the 6th of August, 20% discount to anyone who wants to get a prop gamer. I promise you till Black Friday, it's not going to be cheaper than that. Maybe Black Friday might just come down, but it's not going to be cheaper than that till Black Friday. 20% discount is going to be the best offer you get for now. All right. Thank you for watching. I hope you get a prop gamer and begin to actually extract money from the markets virtually risk-free and almost hands-free.